Okay, so hopefully you downloaded the model and you have this. So again, I'm using Maya as opposed to Max for rigging and skinning is for the sole purpose that I just like Maya better for rigging and skinning. Uh, it may be because that I don't do much rigging and skinning, and I'm not too good at it in Max. But when you don't know that much and you just know enough to get by, and you try it on Maya and then you try it on Max, you're going to find that Maya will get you through it a lot quicker and easier, in my opinion. So that's what we're going to do. I feel more comfortable in Maya, and I'm going to use it. So it should have its own layer. If not, just put one on there. Okay. All right. So in the side view, now I usually use my own toolbar. And I basically have just a joint tool, a select joints, a select hierarchy, and a freeze transformation. If you want to do that quickly, I could show you. You could just go up to, I think, Windows, where is it? Settings and Preferences, Shelf Editor, and you can create a new one. And you can say line, and save. And then you'll have your own tab. And then if you just hit Control Shift, and then whatever you select, you'll be able to put on the thing. So you can go up to Skeleton, Create Joints, and there it is. And again, yours might be different than mine. This is 2016, but yours might be located on the animation. But in any event, use that. Then again, holding down Control Shift to select hierarchy. And while we're here, we can do select by type, joints. We got joints, and again, I want to put in freeze transformation if I can find it. Where is it? Yeah, freeze transformation. Good. And put whatever else you like up there. Okay, so I'm going to start with the joint tool. I'm going to start right above the leg. This will be the root joint. Now, if your joints are a little bit bigger or smaller, you can just go up to Display, Animation, and Joint Size. And you can adjust it to whatever you feel comfortable. It should be like around that. Okay. So again, I'm going to start with the joint tool and start right above the leg. That'll be my root joint. And I'm going to start placing them down. And trying to make a conscious effort of placing them on the edge of the polygons. And as they get closer to the tail, they're going to get closer and closer apart. And again, the closer you put them, the smoother the bend will be as you're rotating. And now when I get to the last joint, I'm not going to hit Enter. I'm going to just hit the up arrow key and come right back to the root joint. And when I get back to the root joint, I'm going to go in the opposite direction now. And here. And I'm going to slowly start to go up a little bit to follow the contour. Put a few on the neck. And then when I get to about here, actually I'm going to do Control Z, undo that. Maybe the last one here I'll put here. And then I'll put one here, here. And again, hit the up arrow, come to this joint, and do one here and here. And hit the up arrow. That's good. And when I come back, I want to come to right about here. I'm going to go to my 4 view, still selected now. Now, while hitting the up arrow keys, I can keep going up and down. So when I get to about here, I'm going to hit the clavicle. And then I guess the armpits are around here. And then the elbow. The hand. Actually, I'm going to undo that and bring it a little closer. And put it wherever I think there would be a bend. Oops, undo. And when I get to the end here, never hitting enter, I'm just hitting the up arrow keys. When I get back to here, I'm going to go back this way, here, and here. And undo. Up arrow. Here, here, and here. Up arrow. And when I get back to the center, I'm going to do the opposite. Back to the clavicle, the armpit, the elbow, whatever this is, and just keep working my way back to you. Yeah. Up arrow. And back it up. Okay, and what else? Oh, okay, so now I'm going to go back to, let's say, side view. I think that's good. The rest we can connect. Yeah, okay, good. Now you can enter. Good. And when I shut off the body, all right, this is what we got so far. Okay. All right, let's line up these wings. Actually, before we do that, let's just finish the rig. Okay, so in the side view, we're going to do the footsies. So again, hit the joint tool, put one in dead center, one in the knee, one on the elbow, one down by the foot. Now this foot's going to be a little tricky because I guess there should be a joint here. I feel like there should be one here, here. I don't know. I gotta put one here, here. So I'm gonna undo that. I'm gonna resize the joints when I'm done, but I guess there should be one here. I feel like there should be a bend here, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's here and one here. Let's do 3. And hit enter. Let's take that root joint, slide it over where it belongs. Actually, I want it to be like about here. I'll just pull this over. Okay. Good. Okay, so now with this foot, pull this over. Let's go to the top view. Now, this is interesting because if you want to trace out the foot, it's kind of hard to see. So what you could do, which I like in Maya, is that if you hit select camera in the top view, and if you use your transformation tool, you can, you can use like a slicing plane to view whatever you just want to see. So I want to slice it down, so the only thing I see is the feet. Yeah, that's good. So now we can continue. Okay, so I want to put the joint. Let's do the same thing. Put one here. I guess here and here. And then the back. Oh, enter. And let's do the back. Jesus, I gotta make these things small. Okay, enter. All right, first let me just resize these. So if I think if you just hit the, well, actually, if you go to the radius here, You change this to say 0.5. Yeah. So I guess if you could select both of them, we could probably just do them all at the same time. Yeah. Let's go down to 0.5 on these. Select 1, 2, 3, 0.5, and 1, 2, 3, 0.5. Right, that's more manageable. Okay. Now this is what we have. So if we look at it from, we're going to connect these guys. So 1, 2, and we're going to connect it to this guy. And hit P on your keyboard. Okay. And now we just have to push this guy up. Let's go to the side view. Okay. Okay. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that's good enough. Good enough. Okay, so now we have one leg done. Now, you couldn't just do like Control D and duplicate it over. Okay, but then again, you got to start moving the joints back into place. So if you select it and you go up to skeleton mirror joints, and I think it has to be set to the Y-Z axis. You just hit apply, it'll just mirror it over. It's already in the opposite, which is pretty cool. Okay, so we have both legs done, and all we have to do now is parent it to the root joint. So we're going to select one leg, 2, and then the root joint, and hit P on the keyboard, and the legs are parented. Okay, so let's take the wing, the armpit, actually the clavicle, and select both clavicles and bring them up so that they're where they're supposed to be. Now you can see the wings are tilted down, so we're going to have to readjust. So we could probably do that in perspective view. So you can just pull these down into place. See, I like pulling them down as opposed to rotating them. It's just an old habit of mine, because when you translate them down, you notice that you don't have any rotation values on the joints. Whereas if you rotated the joint into place, you have all these rotation values, which should be remaining at 0. And which is fine, because you're going to hit the freeze transformation and freeze it all back to 0. But sometimes you forget to do that. And in the event that you do forget, at least your joints are at 0. If you are counting on freeze transformation all the joints, and for some reason you forget, you're going to be definitely screwed if you rotated every one of these joints. And again, you want these joints at 0 so that at any time you can return to the initial position by just typing in 0 on the rotation values. And if you have all different numbers, you're going to be screwed, because you'll never be able to get back to your original position. Yeah. So I want to put now an additional control on this wing here. You see this edge here? I like to have control on this flap, on these flaps. So I guess from the top view we could do this. Oh, let's straighten out this. Okay. So let's do the joint tool. Let's put one right up here. Around the seam. And I could just mirror that. Okay. Let's see, let's pull them both up. This one's going to be a little tricky because it's a very thin piece of geometry. So, all right, so let's parent these two to one of these rib cages. So select 1, 2, and then this joint. Hit P. And now we can adjust these two. It's so thin. See, I like to bring this up though. It's sticking out over here. It's not. Select these two. I'll do that. All right, these down. And bring it back up. And we can make these two joints smaller too, by the way. I think that's okay. Okay, so this is our skeleton. Okay, now this would be fine. This would be perfect for a Ford kinematics rig where you're just going to be rotating the joints, which is fine. As a matter of fact, we don't need to do it. We could just put IK on the legs. Let's do that right now. Let's go to skeleton, create IK handle. Click once there, once there. And in the attribute editor, just make sure that stickiness is set to sticky. And then do again the same thing. IK handle, click here and there. And make sure our sticky is on. Okay. So now, there you go. Okay, good. Now, again, if you want, I've seen rigs where you could put an IK on here, like this. But I didn't do that. I kept it where I just had the freedom to rotate on my own. And that's what I'm going to do. If you want to do an IK rig, go ahead. Knock yourself out. But for flying, I kind of like the freedom to just rotate myself. Now, speaking of rotating, there is a way to make your life a little easier where you can just set up a control so that both wings will flap at the same time. And all you got to do is just turn a dial and they'll just flap around. But when you do that, you're going to wind up with a problem. And the problem is that if you do a set-driven key on these, any joints that are set up for set-driven keys, you cannot set a key on them yourself by rotating it to a different position and pressing S on the keyboard. You won't be able to set a key if it's got a control a set-driven key controller already assigned to it. Okay, so here's the rig set up with set-driven key. Okay, so by just using a slider, I can make the wings do exactly what I want them to do. Okay, but there's also a downside to this. And the downside is whatever you're using on your set-driven key, all those joints won't be able to be manually keyed. So let me show you, give you another example. Okay, so let's say that at this point here, I want to rotate the wing into a different position. So if I select this joint, and you can see there's a connection on X, Y, and Z. If I set a key, pressing S on the keyboard, and I, let's say, rotate the wing into another position, and then set another key, as soon as I press play, it pops back out. So no matter how many times I bend it into a different position, it won't hold my keyframe. So anytime you have a set-driven key assigned to joints, you cannot just select that joint again and set a key. The easiest workaround, and it requires less thinking, is just adding additional joints right next to the joints that you're going to add a set-driven key to. So if you want to have a set-driven key rig and also have the freedom to animate them, then what I did was I added additional joints, which is we could do an insert joint, click, and I added one joint right next to this joint, and I needed a joint here, and I wanted an extra joint here. So I have, one will be for the set-driven key, and the other one you'll be able to rotate. And again, same thing on this side. I want to put one here, and oops, and one there. Okay, and not to get it confusing, we could select this joint, just make it a little smaller, and okay. Okay, so now the smaller joint could be either you can assign the set-driven key to them, or vice versa. You could set the set-driven key to the main ones, and the little ones you could rotate yourself. This is how I get around. This is my workaround to having control over the set-driven key and control over animating, setting your own keyframe on the joints as well. Okay, so for those of you who might have doubted my rig setup, here's a quick setup of the rig with the small joints set into my set-driven key, and I have it set to a controller. So right now I have it that the whole wing is bending up, and again, if I were to select that one joint that would have been the only joint, and I went to go set a key and press S, it would never work. But because we now have the additional joints, we can select when the wing goes up like this, I could select the other joint and rotate it like this, and perhaps set a key, rotate this one, that, set a key, and now it stays into the position because we stood the hell away from the set-driven key joints. undo it. So that's the reason why I'm using these additional joints in the rig, because wherever you plan on using a set-driven key, this is a very easy, quick workaround to get around that. So, okay, so let's see, getting back to this. Okay, so I think we're good now with the rig. And again, if you could do a set-driven key on the tail. I see people doing that all the time. But it's such an easy thing because if you just select the tailbone, right? All you have to do is select the one bone that you want to start with, and then just hit the hierarchy button. And it selects all the joints, and then you can rotate like this, you know. Or if I want to just grab from here and then hit the hierarchy, you know, like it's not really that big of a deal. So to me, I'd rather have the freedom to do whatever I want with it. You know, the wings, it's a little bit, you know, you want a little extra help, you know. But the tail, to me, it's just too easy. I don't need to deal with that, worrying about that I can't key it because of the set-driven key and all that crap. Okay, so I think this is it for rigging. In the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to set up the set-driven key and to add the controllers. So it makes it easier to select. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Good.